Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rules well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of the video is "For he is cast into a net by his own feet." The he here is the wicked, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, right? And he is cast into a net by his own feet. The things that he's doing now in office, right? The policies or even the neglect of the policies that he set up is causing his allies or enemies, because there's a shift happening. Some allies are becoming enemies, and some enemies, no, just a lot of allies are becoming enemies, right? So he's causing his enemies to join forces, and I'm talking about Trump. This is Job 18:5. It says, "Yet a light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. The steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. For he is cast into a net by his own feet, he walketh upon a snare." And that's exactly what's happening. We can clearly see that, through the power of Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmiel Shai. We can clearly see that these devils are making moves that's not good for America. So I type in Google, Trump is forcing other nations together. So this is your AI overview. Reports and analysts from 2025 indicate that the foreign policy of Donald Trump has prompted some nations to seek closer cooperation with one another, though not in a unified bloc against the U.S., which is ultimately going to come to that. And basically, these people that he's forcing together haven't really been talking with each other before Trump came to office, because their whole thing is what divide and conquer. They want people fighting amongst themselves so they can, do what they do, right? And that's why it's separated here in America. You have the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, this group of people, that people. That's what they want because it keeps you distracted from what's really going on, and that's the wicked. That's why the scriptures say in Revelations 20 that he went out and deceived the nations. People are fighting amongst themselves when this devil is the true, real problem. Revelation 20:7, it says, "And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog," which is talking about Russia here, "to gather them together to battle," right? The battle that will take place is World War III. Since the number of whom is at the sand of the sea, so there's going to be a lot of people fighting in World War III. We got those generals meeting tomorrow, roughly 800 generals meeting tomorrow with the Secretary of War, right? To discuss, I think, war, So that's what's happening. And World War III will happen. I believe it's 11. Revelations 11:14, it said the second war was past, and behold, the third war coming quickly. You had World War I, you had World War II, you will have a World War III, right? So that's brewing back there. We also have the MOTD, which is Mark the Beast to worry about, okay, which is the digital chipping of the masses. And we also have Jacob's Trouble, which we are in the midst of that, right? It's only going to intensify, okay? So Trump is causing his allies or enemies, whatever, Trump is causing his enemies to be closer to each other. Instead, his approach has been described as creating a void in global leadership, leading to a realignment of existing relationships and a surge in defense spending among some allies. Yeah, because America is going crazy. It's causing all type of problems. Things are shifting, right? People are uncertain about what's about to happen because America is losing its power. So war's coming. It says undermining multilateral institutions. Trump's America's first agenda has involved weakening, and it's America first, but Israel firstest. Trump's America's first, but Israel's firstest agenda has involved weakening or withholding support from international bodies like the UN, the World Trade Organization, and global climate agreements. This has created, let me see what's talking about, apparition, divide among other nations, okay? Pushing them to confront, well, not divide among other nations. Let's see. Anxiety or fear that something bad or unpleasant will happen. Yeah,
Apprehension.
apprehension. All right, apprehension among other nations. It's like, and I went to the dentist earlier, so if I sound a little funny or whatever, this has created apparition among other nations, pushing them to confront. It's like a multi-day type thing. I went the other day, so they got different processes to do. This has created apparition among other nations, pushing them to confront international inefficiencies, but also prompting some to seek closer ties elsewhere. Yeah, that's the point. The whole point is that this devil is allowing his enemies to join forces. So it's no longer conquer and divide, right? Because they're not dividing. It says encouraging allied cooperation in response to what is perceived as an unreliable U.S. Security umbrella. Several alliances have strengthened. NATO. Some core NATO countries are increasing defense spending and cooperation in anticipation of a potential U.S. withdrawal or reduced commitment. So this is going into the 10 horns, right? We have here Revelation 17 and 12. It says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast." So the NATO, EU, will give their strength unto America for a period of time. It says, Revelation 17 and 14, "These shall make war with the Lamb." So, basically this part right here is when World War III is taking place, and the big body of people that's gathered together will stop fighting themselves and turn to fight Yahushua when he returns. So that's what this is talking about. It says, "These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them." So ultimately, Yahushua is going to win that battle. It says, "For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful, the elect." It says, "And he said unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the Lord sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. In the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the Lord." So that's what's happening. Uncertainty, even putting sanctions on them, and even causing things to happen in their cities, right? They're not allowed to buy oil that is cheaper from Russia anymore, right? So prices are going up for the civilians, and they're uproaring, and so they're not happy with how this beast is ruling anymore. Okay, it says, "In the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, thee shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn with fire." Ultimately, they will shoot missiles, nuclear missiles, on America. It says, "For Yahweh have put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled." So these NATOs and EU, they report to America. Okay, but for a time period, because they're going to turn. It says, "In the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which is America, which reigneth over the kings of the earth." All right. So we can get this Obadiah too in the NLT, because ultimately this is what's going to happen. Obadiah 1 and 7 NLT, it says, "All your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land." His allies are who? NATO, EU. That's it, pretty much. It says, "All your allies will turn against you. They will help chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you, and you won't even know about it." So these things are happening with these different meetings that's taking place. So NATO, some core NATO countries, Turkey is a big NATO country, I believe, and they kind of like one foot in, one foot out. They do what they want, pretty much. It says some core NATO countries are increasing defense spending in cooperation in anticipation of a potential U.S. withdrawal or reduced commitment. Right, and this is facts. This is being talked about. This is on the www. It says Indo-Pacific, East Asian nations like Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, which face threats from China, are seeking closer collaboration among themselves. See, Similar U.S. allies in Asia, similarly, similarly, U.S. allies in Asia have been exploring strategic autonomy and stronger regional ties, fueling rival blocs. Trump's transactional and often confrontational stance toward both allies uh, and rivals have contributed to growth of opposing geopolitical blocs, right? Geopolitical blocs, particularly those led by China and Russia. Sino-Russian cooperation. Following his pressure on U.S. allies, some countries have been pushed toward closer ties with China. For example, India has been strengthening its relationship with China amid U.S. trade policies. BRICS expansion. Analysts note that Trump's policies have accelerated the expansion of groups like BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which are building an alternative to the US-led world order. Right. So America that is in, they're building up their own world order now, which they won't fulfill that because the next thing to rule is that of the Israelites. Okay. It says triggering national cooperation faced with U.S. Unilateralism. Some regions have taken steps to enhance their own cooperation. For example, East Asian foreign ministers met in March 2025 to increase cooperation on shared challenges in light of increasing global uncertainty. Yes, that uncertainty was happening, perplexity, let me grab that. Where is this on that? It's called Luke. Luke 21:25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, we'll see the waves roaring. Yeah, it's confusion. All right. The state of one who is in perplexity. Inability to deal with or understand something complicated or unacceptable. Yeah, America is through. And it's like, what's going on? What's happening? So you get what's happening. That's it, so yeah, perplexity. And a big one we have here, of course, is pursuant to Exhibit 38, with Russia gaining different allies, Iran. Russia is back in Iran in this nuclear situation. And this is big because Israel, right? You got the major players in the scripture. You got Jeremiah 15:45, the least of flocks to draw out America to the war. And right now, Israel's problem is Iran having these nuclear capabilities. And now we have Putin back nuclear pact between Tehran and Moscow. This is Iran and Russia.
Moscow, Russia, September 25th, 2025. A day before a critical UN sanctions deadline on Iran expired, Tehran and Moscow struck a landmark agreement to expand Iran's nuclear energy capacity. Iranian state television announced the deal late Thursday, underscoring the deepening strategic ties between the two nations as Western concerns over Iran's nuclear ambitions persist. According to the report, the Russian Atomic Energy Agency Rosatom and Iran's Hormuz company signed a contract valued at just over 21 billion euros. The agreement paves the way for the construction of 4 new nuclear power plants in Sirik, southern Iran. At present, Iran operates only 1 nuclear power plant, the Bushehr facility in the south. Western governments continue to voice suspicion that Iran is covertly pursuing nuclear weapons. Tehran firmly denies the accusation, reiterating that its nuclear program is intended solely for civilian power generation. The timing of the deal, just 1 day before the reinstatement of UN sanctions against Iran, highlights the geopolitical tensions surrounding Iran's nuclear program. Diplomats from Germany, France, and the United Kingdom were in New York for last-minute talks with Iranian representatives during the UN General Assembly. However, negotiations had yet to produce a breakthrough. European diplomats described the situation as extremely delicate, noting that the window for a diplomatic compromise was narrowing. The signing coincided with a high-profile nuclear forum in Moscow, attended by prominent international figures. Russian President Vladimir Putin, while gesturing toward the International Atomic Energy Agency's chief, Rafael Grossi, stated, "We're acting on his instructions." Later, in an informal exchange with Mohammad Islami, head of the Iranian Atomic Energy Organization, Putin remarked, "We expressed Russia's position." These remarks were captured on camera during a session that included Myanmar's junta chief Min Aung Hlaing, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, and other regional leaders. The deal comes amid persistent Western fears that Iran's civilian nuclear program could mask military ambitions. For years, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has monitored Iran's nuclear activities, often expressing concern over Tehran's enrichment of uranium beyond limits set by previous international accords. Tehran continues to reject such accusations. Officials insist that the new reactors are part of the country's plan to reduce its dependence on fossil fuels and expand its clean energy capacity. Iranian spokespeople reiterated that the program serves peaceful purposes only. Iran's only operational plant in Bushehr, inaugurated with Russian assistance, has long been a focal point of international debate. In 2019, Iranian authorities held a ceremony to launch construction of a second reactor at the same site. Images from that event showing workers on site beneath the national flag have resurfaced in recent coverage as Tehran celebrates the new agreement. The partnership between Russia and Iran in the nuclear sector reflects a broader alignment of interests, particularly as both countries face Western sanctions. Analysts say the €21 billion deal will bolster Iran's energy infrastructure while providing Russia with significant leverage in Middle Eastern geopolitics. The Moscow Nuclear Forum served as a stage for both symbolism and diplomacy. Video footage captured Putin walking the venue's halls, IAEA chief Rafael Grossi engaging with delegates, and Rosatom's chief Alexei Likhachov alongside Armenian Prime Minister Pashinyan. These moments underscored the convergence of state actors and regulators at a time of heightened nuclear sensitivities. Grossi's presence was particularly notable. As the UN's nuclear watchdog chief, his participation was viewed as a gesture of oversight and a signal that international standards would still play a role in future developments, even as Tehran and Moscow deepened their cooperation. While the deal unfolded in Moscow, attention also turned to New York, where world leaders gathered for the UN summit on the Palestinian issue. Among the notable arrivals were French President Emmanuel Macron and other European leaders who also held side meetings on Iran's nuclear file. Diplomatic sources indicated that talks between Germany, France, the UK and Iran on the sidelines of the summit were tense and inconclusive. A Western envoy warned that a last-minute agreement is not yet in sight, reflecting the uncertainty surrounding efforts to prevent the reinstatement of broader sanctions. The Syric reactors, once operational, will significantly increase Iran's nuclear energy output and reduce its reliance on fossil fuels. Yet for Western capitals, the expansion heightens the urgency of securing ironclad guarantees that Tehran's program remains peaceful. Geopolitical experts point out that Russia's backing strengthens Iran's bargaining position in future negotiations. It also signals Moscow's intent to consolidate influence in the Middle East.
Yeah, so what we have here is, these, they want the smoke. They don't really care, basically. For Russia to, go ahead and back Iran with its nuclear deal, knowing what's going on in the world, they're ready for the smoke. It says, Joel 3:9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare a war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say, I am strong. And that's what happened. They're not caring. They're like, okay, we won't make these pacts between each other, and this is a direct slap in the face to Bibi not a Jew, right? Because he has a problem with Iran and their nuclear program. And Russia is saying, I'm gonna help you. This is Ezekiel 38:1. And the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against God, the land of Magog, Russia from the land of Russia, right? The chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I'm against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, which goes into Turkey. So Turkey is another ally that's going to join forces with Russia in the near future. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. And I will turn thee, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even the great company with bucklers and shield, all of them having swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya. So Persia goes to Iran. And that's what's happening. Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. So these countries and nations right? We'll be joining with Russia, Gomer and all his bands. I also talking about the North Quarters and all his bands. Many people would be. So Germany, right? Turkey. It says, "Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou right unto them." So Russia's gonna be that the new top dog, for this war, for World War III. When he's gonna be the captain, basically, the chief prince. Right, and they're gonna come against Israel, right, and America, because once again, the least of is gonna draw out America, right, to this war because they're having a problem with Iran, and now they have a problem with Russia. So America has a problem with Russia, right? It makes sense. Okay, so Shalom, Philip, which consists of men, women, and children, Shalom.